This video contains spoilers, unsettling content, and violent content. Viewer discretion advised.
Come on, man, that's ancient history.
There's always gotta be one annoying little upstart in every game that waltzes in to ruin all the fun. These people are often so infuriating that they wind up being even worse than the intended antagonist.
Sometimes their methods will involve interfering with objectives, toying with people or things the players become attached to, outright messing with gameplay mechanics, or quite simply, being a complete slimeball of a human being that gets no greater pleasure than to terrorize the player ad nauseum.
As part of the only recognition these true characters deserve, here are the top 50 jerks in games. Dog. Duck Hunt. Dogs are meant to be man's best friends, but the one in classic 1984 Nintendo shooter Duck Hunt obviously missed the memo on that. He starts out friendly and helpful enough, diving into a bush to help drive the titular ducks out of hiding, but that's where his pleasantness comes to a dead stop. If you fail to shoot any of the ducks as they fly by, the dog emerges from the bushes and laughs in your face at your ineptitude. Every single time you fail to complete a level, this mangy mutt cackles at your utter failure. And if you reach your wit's end and try to unload your gun into his face to shut him up, you're in for disappointment, as he is unable to be harmed by the player. That is, until he appears again in versus Duck Hunt. Blasting him incurs a score penalty, but chances are that after putting up with his mockery for as long as you did, you won't mind it in the slightest. Mr. Resetti, Animal Crossing. The land of Animal Crossing is populated with a variety of kind and friendly animal folk to chill with and build a community. Skulking beneath the earth is Mr. Resetti, a mole who only emerges when you fail to save your game at the end of a play session. He springs out of the ground and will initially be sympathetic, and let it slide as an accident. Further resets, however, will reveal just how angry he can get quickly, becoming rude and yelling harshly at the player for what could simply be an honest mistake. In some instances, he will force you to answer questions and sit through long angry lectures. All the while you're expected to sit there and listen instead of playing the actual game. Under extreme circumstances, Mr. Resetti may even perform a fake reset intended to scare you into compliance. The dude seems pretty dedicated to his one job, but bumping into him in Wild World drinking coffee, he's altogether quite calm and happy to discuss his work. The yelling and angry attitude is just to scare people into not resetting their systems, so perhaps he's not such a bad guy after all. Credit where credit is due. He certainly ensured many of us never incorrectly reset our games again. Mido, The Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time. Mido of the Kokiri is yet another example of someone whose arrogance leads them to believe they're more important than the rest of the world. He calls himself the Great Mido, despite not doing anything of note to earn the title throughout the game, and forces the other Kokiri to work themselves to the bone, whilst he does nothing to help. If that wasn't bad enough, he also displays an ugly streak of prejudice against Link, being unwilling to accept him amongst the Kokiri due to Link lacking a fairy of his own, and saying to his face that he can't understand why Saria or the Great Deku Tree admires him. He also pins the blame for the death of the tree on Link, despite Ganondorf placing a curse on it. Fortunately, Mido ends up being served a hefty slice of humble pie after an older Link returns from the Temple of Time, and realizes what a jerk he's been. The Kokiri are forced to hide when monsters overrun the forest. Mido, the coward, is instructed by Saria to guard the entrance tunnel to the sacred forest meadow. He even goes as far as to ask adult Link to pass on the apologies to his younger counterpart, cementing his turn towards a nicer individual, albeit 7 years too late.
You're not supposed to be in here.
Children of Skyrim, The Elder Scrolls V, Skyrim. While exploring the lands of Skyrim to solve the imminent dragon problem, you will discover many a person or group to interact with. These encounters will often be enlightening in some way, but the children of Skyrim will likely leave a bitter taste in your mouth.
I thought adventurers were supposed to look tough.
To begin with, there's the cocky and hostile Braith of Whiterun, who bullies the other kids while boasting that she'll fight anyone.
Boys, girls, dogs, elders. There's There's nobody I won't fight.
Then there's a spoiled brat Dagny from Dragon's Reach demanding everything be done for her right now, lest the wrath of her father's influence be used to deal with those unable to please.
Absurd that you can't cook good sweet rolls in the skeever hole of a city.
There's also Rorikstead's young Brit, who despises her twin sister to such a degree that she implies that she will look the other way if you beat her, assuring that her sister is not even good enough to walk in her shadow.
If you beat up my sister, Sissel, I won't tell.
The Twisted Aster residing in Winterhold, who believes all elves and mages are lesser people, and threatens to send thugs to beat you up if he dislikes you.
I hope monsters come and eat you.
The sarcastic and condescending Nelker, who believes everyone is just here to curry favor with the Jarl of Whiterun, is yet one more. These are but a few examples of the horrid and dislikable little tykes Skyrim has to offer.
Get me mad, and I'll prank you. And not a little, a lot.
Despite all this, it remains impossible to properly punish them, since all children are unable to be harmed. But you're the hero of the land, right? Surely you could take a few childish insults.
Watch your tongue, stranger. We don't take back talk in this inn.
And if not, perhaps a mod or two will satisfy your need for revenge.
You're the best. Can you be my mother?
So you realize that your hair looks like that?
Dad, South Park, the stick of truth. Having only just moved into the town of South Park, you'd think that as the new kid, you'd be able to take your time slowly adjusting to the social life of the area. Meet the other kids and befriend them gradually as you become comfortable in your new environment. Wrong. Not with Dad around. He practically kicks you out of the house immediately so you can start making friends around town.
It wasn't a request, it was a command. Now get out there and make some friends.
Doesn't matter what social anxieties you have or the secret reason why you moved here in the first place, just get your butt out there and do what your dad wants.
You're not as ugly as I remember.
Except even once you make a decent amount of acquaintances, it's still not good enough to him. You can't even befriend your own father unless you've made 50 friends, only then being impressed with his child. Really showing the love. The most interest he shows in your endeavors is to chastise you for not doing well enough, or grounding you for spending too much time with your friends at a late hour. There's no winning with him at any point, making him more frustrating than any of the hardest fights or evil enemies you'll face.
I want you to go to bed and think about what you've done.
Maggie's father, The Legend of Zelda, The Wind Waker. Roaming by the docks of Windfall Island is a rubieless beggar who will chase after you once catching you in his sights. He proceeds to share a tale of his lost daughter pleading for your help and won't stop harassing you until you finally agree to take up the quest. However, once you rescue his daughter and have her returned home, it is revealed Maggie managed to get her hands on a small fortune of skull necklaces, which suddenly makes them both very rich. From here on, Maggie and her father decide to reside within the rich man's auction house, living in the lap of luxury and wielding great power. Unfortunately, this quick change of class causes Maggie's father to develop a very condescending attitude to all below him, even referring to you, the child who helped him acquire his wealth in the first place, as nothing more than an urchin. Talking to him spouts nothing but him gloating about his wealth, and sometime later into the game, he yells at a postman for entering his premise to deliver a letter to his daughter. While Maggie is much more level-headed and understanding, thinking often of her beloved Maudlin Moe, her father does everything in his newfound power to deny his daughter's wish to see this Moe again. His terrible attitude leads one to question if it was really worth going to the trouble of hearing him out in the first place. A harsh dose of humility is what this man deserves more than any amount of money.
Hey Einstein, I'm on your side!
Falco Lombardi, Star Fox 64. The Star Fox team may as well be one of the greatest pilots in the galaxy and saviors of space many times over, but that doesn't stop Falco the Pheasant from being a rather unpleasant character to work alongside.
I could use some help here, Fox! Fox, you're supposed to shoot them all?
For starters, he's an ex-criminal, making him a bit of a cynical loose cannon right from the word go. Other than that, he has a very high opinion of himself, constantly trying to one-up his fellow teammates even in the middle of life and death dogfights, focuses on the monetary gain from his missions more than the lives they're saving, and is utterly ungrateful whenever you go out of your way to bail him out of trouble when he has a bogey on his tail.
Gee, I've been saved by F.E.A.R. How swell.
There's also the fact that he exhibits flat-out racist undertones in his insults towards the enemies he's gunning down, with charming lines like,
Time to show the monkeys who's boss.
whenever he scores a kill on Andross's henchmen.
Is that the best you can do?
While his heart is definitely in the right place, and there's no doubt he is a valuable member of the team.
Flippy can be such a headache.
That doesn't stop the player's patience being tried somewhat when you take to the skies alongside him.
See my ship? Does it look okay to you?
Isn't it true that you were on Earth when the Reapers attacked? How do you justify running away while millions of people on Earth die? Is that the best we can expect from the Alliance?
Reporter Khalisah-Al-Jilani, Mass Effect. Khalisah is a ruthless reporter for the Human Media Corporation, Westerland News. Throughout the Mass Effect series, Khalisah has shown up at least once per game, looking to tear down top figures and names in the interest of finding the truth. It turns out to be nothing more than a means to push a vague conspiracy that aliens are subverting humanity and stir the speciesism across the star systems. Her single-focused drive towards journalism removed all moral obligation, taking no consideration in regards to who gets hurt in the process of exposing the truth or purporting lies. She mainly angles her investigation to push her own narrative into frame, and shows visible frustration when she is unable to.
Now, Shepard, you may object to my methods, but we're on the same side. Your bat, your news. I just want to give your story its due.
This is clear from fairly early on when interviewing Shepard in the first game, asking leading questions and making snide remarks when he contradicts her insinuations. This seems harmless enough, but during the second game, Khalisah's antics get a little more out of hand, and if well equipped to deal with the argument, you can beat her back mid-interview to shut her up.
I wish I'd done that the first time we met.
You son of a bitch! I'll make sure everyone in the Alliance sees that.
In Mass Effect 3, she has a few more tricks up her sleeve, being able to pull reversals on your pushbacks if you're not quick enough. Taking the diplomatic route can encourage her to your side, and have her working the proper narrative for once, making her a useful ally. Though it'll feel a little like selling your soul to the devil, and put your moral compass in a spin, Khalisah may market herself as a respectable journalist, but don't believe everything you read in the paper.
Commander Shepard? Commander, humanity has questions.
Gary Oak, Pokemon, Fire Red and Leaf Green. There's a fine line between confidence and arrogance. Gary Oak doesn't just cross that line, he takes a running leap over it. His rapid-fire text speak seems intended to annoy the player to the nth degree, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. Between his immature taunting, berating you for your training techniques, despite KOing his team time and time again, to flat-out stealing an Eevee meant for you in the original Pokemon Yellow. Near the end of the game, he declares himself the most powerful trainer in the world, taking the role of champion. Chances are you'll be wishing you could have your Pokemon lay the smackdown on him by the time the journey is over. Not only that, but taking the time to chat with his grandfather leads to a conversation that implies Gary mistreats his Pokemon, viewing them as little more than tools to become rich and famous, instead of living beings to befriend and form bonds with. Whilst he has matured with age and become a lot nicer and more tolerable as the franchise continues, he's never completely lost that arrogant streak, and his behavior as the very first rival in the franchise means that the fandom's opinion of him will likely continue to sour for many generations to come.
What's the big deal?
Why can't you just tell me?
You gonna yell at me if I don't?
No, I won't.
Laura, Silent Hill 2. An orphan who befriended Mary Sunderland prior to her death. Laura ventures to Silent Hill to find her after misunderstanding Mary's fate in a letter. Throughout the game, Lara will constantly belittle and berate James Sunderland with creatively childish insults such as fart face, and most interactions end with her slipping away, taunting him as she disappears into the fog.
I tricked you.
Open the door, Laura.
Why should I? I'm a liar, right?
She holds a special hatred for James, believing he never truly loved Mary due to his rare visits to the hospital. She will goad James whilst facing mortal doom, stamp on his hand as he hangs on for dear life, and even trap him in a room of monsters to get back at him for his perceived slight.
You snotty little brat! Open up!
Why,
Being the only innocent individual in the game, she cannot see the monsters of Silent Hill and, as a result, is unaware of the danger she put James in with her antics. Later into the story, she starts to open up about her connection to Mary, but refuses to acknowledge when James informs her that Mary is dead, and yet is furious when he admits his part to play in her passing. Perhaps her hatred is justified, and her actions understandable, through the eyes of a child immune to the horrors Silent Hill has to offer. But Lara's actions make her worthy of a spot on this list.
You killer! Why'd you do it? I hate you! I want her back! Give her back to me! I knew it! You didn't care about her! I hate you, James! I hate you! I hate you! I hate you!
I'm Princess. When you're around me, I'm in charge. You shut up and do what I say, because I'm boss around here. That clear?
Princess. Fallout 3. In the underground town of Little Lamplight, there lives a little girl who goes by the name of Princess. She is a condescending little brat who gives attitude to everyone who isn't called McCready, who she apparently has a crush on.
Maybe I just decided I didn't like your stupid mungo face.
Every interaction with the Vault Dweller is met with hostility and insults, believing all beneath her level should bow down in respect. She even goes so far as to say she would have shot you when you arrived simply because she could.
Well, thank goodness you gave me permission, jerk.
If you free the slaves from Paradise Falls, it is revealed that she got her name because she tried to install herself as the leader of Little Lamplight. Her reign lasted all 5 minutes when she was punched in the face by McCready and usurped. When confronted by this, she will play it off as any spoiled child would. If you push her too far, she will break down and cry, stating that she's still just a child and costing you karma for your actions.
Just shut up and leave me alone! Go away!
After this, she'll simply refuse to acknowledge your existence anymore. The price to make her cry may actually be worth it, as never having to hear her speak again is as close to getting rid of her entirely as you're gonna get.
Yeah, group hug.
Damon Baird, Gears of War. Known for being self-assured, opinionated, and having a penchant for disobeying orders, Damon Baird of Delta Squad is the self-appointed smart guy of the group. His jealousy of Marcus getting command is palpable, constantly insulting the sergeant's intelligence while boasting his own skills.
Smart guy a promotion? No, give it to a jackass instead.
But where Baird is actually a very multi-talented individual, his brash nature and inability to prioritize the safety of the squad over the success of the mission or his own personal squabbles.
Plan? What plan? You don't have a plan? You're just talking shit.
This makes him a difficult team member to work with or trust, and certainly makes Baird a liability on the battlefield.
We have visuals on your location.
We'd like to have your ammo on our location right now.
But his jerkiness manifests from a lifetime of being punished for being smart, as well as a horrible family relationship that has affected his life course, as well as relationships with other soldiers.
I'm talking to you, piggy. Blow me. Leave it alone, Baird. What are you, my mom?
He's not a bad guy, but he's pretty difficult to like due to constantly taking out his aggression on his fellow soldiers.
What's going on up there? Well, there's a bunch of assholes with guns up here, and they're trying to kill us. Bear it out.
At least over time he's able to mellow out and fold neatly into Delta Squad's ensemble. A major reason why Baird's development has landed him a spot as one of the fanbase's most popular characters.
Baird, Cole, we're in. What took you so long? We've been here for at least 2 minutes. Well, good for you, smartass.
Every contract has a performance guarantee, Phoenix. Your associate is now mine.
Aaron Griffin, Gears of War 3. Although his appearance is brief, Aaron Griffin certainly made an impact, albeit a negative one. His short temper and bias against anything COG is evident from the get-go, and despite Marcus and his team clearing out the local locusts, Griffin doesn't much care for their aid. The only reason he allows them to live is to retrieve his delayed fuel.
Get my fuel and my cable car. Now can you manage that, killer?
Taking Dizzy as hostage to ensure the deal was honored.
They jumped me and took the truck!
You got an hour. Don't waste it.
His history as CEO of the mining company that used to run this crater was riddled with stories of his iron will and unwavering commitment to his company and employees, all of which was reduced to rubble thanks to the COG using the Hammer of Dawn to level the city. So his anger isn't unjustified. But the most frustrating trait of Griffin is that he is unable to let go of a grudge despite the greater threat, ranting and raving to the end.
You and your tower and all that f***ing emulsion can go to hell!
We'll settle this shit another time, Phoenix. You can count on that, bitch.
The last you see of him is a one-finger salute as he returns to his kingdom of dust.
I guess Owen will let anyone join the arena these days. I guess I shouldn't let it bother me, seeing as how you'll be dead tomorrow.
Yellow Team Champion, The Elder Scrolls IV: Oblivion. Deep within the Imperial City, inside the Arena Bloodworks, a terrible, vicious evil with no name lurks. Well, she has a name, it's just that we only know it as the Yellow Team Champion.
I didn't come here to chat, Blue Team scum. Crawl home while you still can.
Despite constantly proving your worth in combat, working your way up the ranks to the top, the Yellow Team Champion is never impressed.
My. Look at the Myrmidon. Who are you fighting against up there? Cripples and skooma addicts? Maybe someday they'll give you a real challenge.
In fact, she goes out of her way to put you down whenever she can, telling you to go join the Mages Guild as it's more your speed, or constantly alluding to your upcoming demise.
Well. Still alive, are we? Amazing. I never thought you'd make it past the first combatant.
Since when did Bloodsport get so personal? Maybe the reason she trains for mace skills on the blue team side of the Bloodworks is because no one on her own team can stand her.
So it's hero now, is it? I suppose the little urchin wants to be a champion.
Let her laugh at her own remarks, since it's only a matter of time until you have to beat her in combat personally. Victory tastes the sweetest when it's taken from the debtor, and also beaten by a boar.
Listen, you agreed to help us, but if you want to crawl back under your cardboard box, that's fine by me.
Agent Dorland, Condemned 2. You'd think a man like Agent Dorland would stand out amongst a tidal wave of scum and villainy flowing through Metro City's grimy streets? Well, think again. The high-ranking agent of the Serial Crimes Unit may work for the good guys, but he's nothing if not the biggest prick imaginable. From the get-go, he bosses protagonist Ethan Thomas around and treats him like a common criminal. Every comment, any order he gives to you and any of his fellow officers is lathered with an air of superiority, and he openly dismisses Ethan as a bum and a drunk, as he tries to help solve the investigation. As if that weren't bad enough, after all the hard work you put into the mission, he straight up leaves you to die as you're trapped with bloodthirsty looters. Honestly, it's no surprise that he turns out to be the bad guy in the end, let alone a major cause for the state of despair and chaos the city is in. The beatdown you give him almost makes up for having to listen to this arrogant dirtbag talk through the game. Almost.
You're a drunk and a liability.
Ronald Shiner, Dead Rising. Food is a main priority during any kind of disaster, but Ronald Shiner's obsession leans closer to gluttony than well-being. Amidst the outbreak at Paradise Towers, Ronald is found poking around Jill's sandwiches, and immediately accuses Frank West of hoarding food for himself, despite Ronald attempting to do just that. After handing over something to tide the man over, he follows you back to the security room on the promise of more food when they arrive. This ruse, while innocent at first, seems to spark off a scam of dangerous proportions. Ronald somehow convinces a dozen or so survivors that there is not enough food to last everyone here. Frank insists there's plenty of rations to last until rescue, at which point Ronald plainly admits that he requires more food than everyone else. The man is willing to risk the lives of all these people just so he can scrounge up a morsel more food for just himself. The coup is easily quelled if you keep getting more food for the hungry masses. Sorry, Mass, if you however ignore Ronald's plight, he will eventually convince his followers to leave and they are never seen again. But this also decreases your score at the end of the game and unobtainable survivor escape achievements. Some people are selfish as hell, but unfortunately, if you want the benefits of a perfect game, you'll have to give in to this man-sized large demands, which also means he gets off consequence-free. At least you can have a little fun with his undead form in Infinity Mode, even though he's already one step away from being a zombie on the regular.
Why is it everybody so offensive around here?
Either bring me back me missing cogs, or
You don't have to shout.
I'm deaf!
Carl the Cog, Conker's bad fur day. Bat's Tower houses one of the gruffest lunkheads around. For someone in desperate need of assistance, Carl the Cog is about as ungrateful as you can get, constantly ending his inevitable insults by telling you to f*** off.
Hang on a second.
Well, hello there. And aren't you the handsome one?
His split personality, Quentin, is only mildly better, his snobby attitude being a shining alternative to Carl's abrasiveness.
You see, my other self has lost a few of his, shall we say, friends. And if you don't get them back, my life will be a misery. It already is.
Every lady gear you return to Carl garners neither thanks nor much of a reward, even if all three are placed back.
Thanks, f***head. Now go off with you.
At least after powering the big cog and finding himself off his perch.
Oh! Twatting shite! That's tossed it right up there.
The hard-worked lady gears decide that payback is in order for this brood.
Oh! Oh no! Not Mr. Big Cog. That's me, buggered. I'm out of here. I don't know what his problem is. I find it rather delicious. Thank you, Mr. Squirrel.
Oh, my pleasure.
Freeman, you're not doing anything. Make yourself useful and find out what the hell is going on in there.
Dr. Arne Magnusson, Half-Life 2, Episode 2. There's no doubt that Dr. Magnusson is one of the most brilliant scientists on Earth. The Resistance is lucky to have a man like him helping to defend humanity against the Combine forces and keep Zen from breaching into our world. The only downside is that he's the most insufferable, self-centered, egotistical person to have ever lived through the Black Mesa incident. It seems his scientific prowess has given Magnusson an excuse to flex his brain at people whenever given the chance.
Oh, excuse me if I'm interrupting tea time. I'll just step out until you've finished, if that's more convenient.
His self-made rocket is the closest thing he has to a relationship, and he even has a sticky bomb he created called the Magnusson device, despite saying he didn't name it, and the rest of the base agree with its name.
We call it the Magnusson device. Not my chosen label, you understand, but it seemed to please the personnel. Now look lively in there. Warm up the delivery port.
He's short when it comes to social interaction, and heavy on the criticisms.
Freeman, have you heard a word I've been saying? It's up to you to seal the launch doors.
He has a particular distaste towards Lamar despite being debeaked, and even holds a grudge against Gordon. Why? Not because he caused the incident at Black Mesa? No. Because he overheated Magnusson's casserole in the microwave and caused it to explode. Just how petty can you be?
If you pull this off, I might just forgive you for that debacle at Black Mesa. You know the one I mean, involving a certain microwave casserole.
It's not like the good doctor doesn't have a softer side. He's able to give thanks when appropriate, or even dish out a compliment or two when the air is right.
I feel compelled to thank you personally for saving my rocket. So, thank you. Well, that's enough chit-chat.
Spend enough time with him, and you'll wish you were taking a Magnusson to the face. The bomb, not him.
Well, what are you waiting for, Freeman? A hug? The situation's not going to investigate itself.
You screw up this time, Kang, and I'll have your badge, capiche?
Agent Masterson, True Crime, Streets of L.A. Always sticking his nose into the business of Nick Kang, FBI Agent Masterson loves to take charge in any and every situation. He leads by intuition and taking things at face value, playing so by the book that it hurts. Really hurts.
Look, smartass. Uncle Sam wants to know where this counterfeit is coming from, which means bringing in Rocky.
All the while, he'll chew you out for your extreme methods of fighting a literal bloodbath in the streets, but is constantly incapable of stepping up to the plate when the situation calls for force. Everyone has to operate by the standard, and everyone outside of those limitations is an enemy, even when his rules can potentially cost the life of an innocent. At an integral point in the story, Nick's partner Rosie is kidnapped by Rocky, and the only way to get her back is to deliver a van full of ransom money to him. Masterson pulls you over, but even after explaining the whole story, he completely ignores the issue and attempts to place you under arrest. When you flee from the scene, he sends the police and other FBI agents after you.
What the hell happened here? You hear me? Answer me!
It winds up feeling less like a superior trying to rope a misbehaving underling, and more like a personal vendetta against Nick in particular. But when have you ever let a good jerk keep you down?
Kang, you got some serious moves.
Let's not, pardon me for being so blunt, let's not forget the fact that I am the most skilled archer of all the Rito. Yet despite these truths, it seems that I've been tapped to merely assist you. It's just asinine.
Revali, The Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild. It can be hard to accept that there are people out in the world better suited to tackle a task you feel you could easily handle yourself. Revali takes personal resentment over this fact to new heights. Despite being one of the 4 original champions of Hyrule, he certainly doesn't act like it, never missing a chance to mock Link whenever the two cross paths.
Unless you think you can prove me wrong? Maybe we should just settle this one-on-one.
His obvious jealousy towards the young hero shines through in every conversation they share, with Revali constantly bringing up Link's inability to fly, insisting he would have a greater role in defending Hyrule, if not for Link possessing the Master Sword, and being altogether condescending in the advice he gives out, clashing with the genuine friendliness of the other champions on the journey. On top of this, his journal entries in the Champions Ballad DLC reveal he harbors some rather bigoted views towards the Hylians, believing them to be selfish in nature, which likely indicates there is a degree of racism at work behind his treatment of Link. Even once Link defeats Ganon, Revali still refuses to drop the arrogance, attributing Link's victory to luck instead of skill.
And if you ask me, the whole thing does seem to be overkill. I think I'm on the same page as the princess regarding this boy.
Oh, give it a rest.
Whilst he may be an undeniably useful asset in your quest to bring peace to the land, you'll wish he spent a few more hours working on his people skills instead of his archery prowess.
Commander Dominic Lockhart, Crysis 2. A man with a vendetta will put the lives of many at risk just to get what he wants. Commander Dominic Lockhart is the kind of dedicated that puts the whole of humanity at risk of destruction. At the beginning of the game, Lockhart is tasked with killing Prophet, the protagonist of the first game and owner of the Nanosuit 2.0, which gives its user better abilities on the battlefield. Lockhart has a troubled history when it comes to the Crynet Nanosuit, as his beloved nephew lost his life during development of the original prototype due to suspicious circumstances, and has pursued sanctions against it ever since. Now that he has shoot-to-kill orders, Lockhart thinks this gives him permission to use any means necessary to achieve the ends. The problem is that not only is Prophet no longer using the Nanosuit 2.0, but an innocent person is now currently utilizing it in order to fight back against a major Ceph attack. Despite being informed of the situation, he still mercilessly hunts down Alcatraz, the new owner of the Nanosuit, and believes himself to be in the right the whole time. Perhaps learning to assess your priorities would help in figuring out whether the death of one man is more important than the survival of many others. But like Lockhart, that hope is tossed out the window, and upon his return, we're able to add hypocritical to the list of reasons to hate Dominic Lockhart. Bowser, Mario Party 7. Quite possibly the most iconic game villain in history, Bowser has often been an antagonist to the Mario Brothers for the majority of their outings. He relishes in every chance he can to bring misery to the Mushroom Kingdom by kidnapping Princess Peach. However, his role in Mario Party has been shifted slightly to being more of an annoyance than an overall threat, which surprisingly makes Bowser more hateable than usual. During the game, Bowser will disrupt play across the board by destroying routes, moving stars, and generally ruining everyone's fun as best as he can. What makes this sting even worse is his motivations imply he's making things more interesting, by pinching your hard-earned stars and coins. Every few turns, Bowser time will trigger, causing him to appear and spice up your vacation aboard. In the last few turns, he may show a nicer side, but only to the losing player, which serves to cause tension between players and ruin friendships. The only reason Bowser is doing any of this is because he wasn't invited on the vacation tour in the first place. But after everything he's done in the past, can you really blame anyone? Way to bear a grudge.
You want to die here? Now's your chance. I'm taking control of this mission again.
Robert Norton, Dead Space 3. An officer of the Earth Defense Force, he was sent to enlist Isaac Clarke for a mission to rescue Ellie Langford, who had been befriended during the events of Dead Space 2. From the outset, Norton shows disdain for Isaac, likely due to his personal history with Ellie. However, this does not stop him from utilizing their relationship in order to manipulate Isaac to sign up for the mission with little resistance.
She's out there all alone, Isaac, and I can't help her unless you help me.
Norton emphasizes his seniority as the party leader, and asserts time and time again that Clarke and Ellie's relationship is dead, making a show of kissing Ellie once she had been safely recovered. But despite this, his insecurities are never satiated.
Fine, let's have a look. I could use a change of scenery.
And Norton resorts to leaving Isaac for dead to secure their escape. When this fails to rid him of the troublesome engineer, Norton makes a deal with Danik to surrender Isaac in exchange for safe passage off the planet.
All he wants is Isaac. Carver, the rest of us can go home.
When the oversensitive Norton is eventually betrayed by Danik, he is ultimately saved by Isaac in an ironic twist of fate. You'd think that would mean something to an honorable man, but Robert Norton is by no means that. In the end, he flies into a fit of rage and Isaac is forced to kill him in self-defense. While his intentions to save Ellie were noble, he allowed his blind jealousy to convince himself that his actions were for the greater good, when in reality all that did was made him an incredibly selfish jerk.
This is all your fault. She doesn't love you.
Flavio, Paper Mario, The Thousand-Year Door. In the dark slums of Rogueport, one is expected to find any manner of scum and villainy, the likes of which will feature Flavio, the self-proclaimed most famous man in Rogueport, seeking adventure, thrills, and a fair share of wealth. While Flavio is not openly hostile, he is very much a scoundrel whose arrogance and ego surpass even the size of his ship. He makes everyone else do the hard work and fix problems he creates, all the while flaunting his delusion that everyone loves and adores him in his fearless nature. In truth, few like or even tolerate the man. His delusions of grandeur are no secret. When confronted with true danger, he will abandon others to save his own skin. He is captain in name only, leaving all duties to far more capable souls, but fears no shame in taking all the glory for himself. At least towards the climax of the plot, Flavio does show some backbone and leadership in order to protect his crew, even if he is forced into it. While perhaps not the most evil of jerks, it is still a joy to see him being taken down a few pegs.
You cut off power to life support. There may be other survivors over here.
Public sector is already beyond acceptable recovery conditions. I can't allow you to escape. Goodbye, Clark.
Director Hans Tiedmann, Dead Space 2. Hans Tiedmann was the director of operations aboard Titan Station, and one of the main antagonists of the game. Tiedmann believed the markers could be harnessed as an endless energy source. He saw himself as a protector of the civilians on the station, despite exposing them to the potential threat. As ambitions waxed and results waned, he was prepared to do whatever he deemed fit to harness that power, even if he had to sacrifice the lives of some now to save many more in the future. He is, however, not without empathy, as he apologizes to Isaac often when forcing him to face mortal danger. His empathy soon fades into rage as Isaac foils his traps and plans at each turn, revealing the truly selfish nature of his character.
This is not the way it was supposed to happen.
Well, how was it supposed to happen, Tiedmann?
It's out of control. Clark, this is not our fault. We were so close to understanding it.
When he loses his men to the necromorphs, he blames Isaac, and goes out of his way to end the engineer's life by whatever means necessary. Tiedmann's actions cost many innocent lives aboard Titan Station to awaken the marker, ignoring his own self-importance and the warning signs for what he believed was the greater good. Perhaps being misguided doesn't make you the biggest jerk on this list, but it was certainly satisfying to stick it to the man by way of javelin spear.
Now let's see it.
Talbot, Uncharted 3, Drake's Deception. Every protagonist's greatest foe is their foil, someone who embodies the antithesis of their personality or moral compass. Talbot is the sadistic, right-handed man to Catherine Marlowe, whom he acquires rare and valuable collectors for by any means necessary. While Nathan Drake's adventuring antics are fueled by a sense of adventure and intrigue, Talbot ventures stem from a desire for power. He's not above murder and manipulation in order to achieve these ends either, drugging Cutter to turn on his closest friends and causing Nate to hallucinate his way into being captured. On several occasions, he allows his victims to suffer a potentially slow and painful death, whether it be eaten alive by giant spiders, choosing between burning to death or breaking your legs escaping, and selling you off to pirates to torture you to death. Even though he follows Marlowe's orders, he takes a sick pleasure in prolonging the torment of those he inflicts pain to. That's why when the one person Nate trusts most seemingly dies at Talbot's hands, it's easy to believe that he would do something so terrible simply for the pleasure of seeing Nate go mad with grief and rage. If that doesn't define a perfect jerk, I'd hate to see what does.
I'm in diplomatic discussions with the Cycloid Emperor of peaceful coexistence of our species. The Cycloid Emperor himself. You are not required to not get involved. That's an order.
President Duke Nukem forever. After the epic beatdown the Duke handed those ugly pig aliens the first time around, it seems like all they want now is peace. The president at least seems to have them sitting at the diplomatic table, and orders Duke not to get involved by blasting his former enemies to smithereens. Only mere moments pass before the ruse is revealed. The aliens begin their invasion, and Duke kicks himself back into action.
Come get some.
The president is, for the most part, absent from the early unravelings of the plot, but his hatred for Duke Nukem is palpable from the get-go. His ignorance of the double cross and insistence that handing over Duke will appease the aliens leads to him ordering his men to stand down. Thankfully, it's an order they all refuse, but the president just won't listen to reason.
You! Damn it, Duke! Damn you! I had the Emperor eating out of my damn hand, and you blew it! All this death, all of this is your fault! You did this! You! Now I've got to go find him and try to repair the negotiations you ruined! I told you not to get involved! Mr. President, we need to leave now!
By the game's climax, the president still believes Duke caused the current conflict, and laments not having the CIA kill him when they had the chance. His ultimatum is to launch a nuke at Hoover Dam in an attempt to kill both the Cycloid Emperor and Duke at the same time. 2 birds with 1 nuclear stone.
You small-brained fool! Now I have to set things right. Me! Enact Operation Omega 96. Authorization code Zeta Alpha Tau 81. You hear that? That is the sound of your imminent death. That is the sound of me decimating my troubles, Duke Nukem. You like nukes? Well, you got one. The satellite is aligning as we speak. Too bad for you that you'll still be here when it arrives. I'll be sipping margaritas while you're clawing at your own skin, hoping for a quick...
However, during the ramp, he lets slip some suspicious words about how he could have owned the world, implying the deal would have involved some level of human subjugation in the first place. Thankfully, the Cycloid Emperor puts the squeeze on his chances for re-election.
Listen up, Pipsqueak. Soon I'll transform the energy from the heart into an army of hoodlums. Then I'll deal with you.
Andre, Raymond 3, Hoodlum Havoc. Andre the Black Loom is a despicable sort of person. Selfish, evil, and above all, rude. The result of scaring a red loom into villainy, Andre begins his existence attempting to take control over the entire loom species by polluting the balance within the heart of the world. This, of course, is just stage 1.
Zelda needs you.
But when his plans fail due to some digestive issues, his next step is to steal the scepter of the Leptis, a relic whose wielder can command the power of a god. He will stop at nothing short of godlike power to achieve his ends, for no other reason than that's what he wants. And what's worse, being stuck with him inside Glowbox for half the game, only to taunt both his host and Rayman the entire time with some pretty disturbing threats to cut off Glowbox's arteries from the inside.
Get me a drink or I start nibbling his arteries! Rayman, do something! Glowbox, get me something to drink or I'll suck up your intestine like an oversized piece of spaghetti!
Hey Rayman, how much further to the doctor's?
The only thing more unsettling is Glowbox is the only one who likes the guy. Not exactly a stellar recommendation there.
I know who you are. And I don't give a shit about what happens to you. But if anything happens to my daughter or that little girl you've got with you, you watch your ass.
Larry, Telltale's The Walking Dead. Larry is an overweight, middle-aged menace with a habit for being loud and outspoken, possessing no filter or concern for how heartless he may sound. A former military man with a cantankerous attitude, which often acts as the source of much conflict amongst the survivors of the zombie apocalypse.
They will find us, and they will get in here, and none of this will f***ing matter. But right now, we're about to be trapped in here with one of those things!
Larry's main goal is to protect his daughter from any harm, which at least shows some good intentions, but his methods erratically vary from incredibly rude to downright hostile. His disregard for others is so strong that he endorses abandoning a child for fear that he has been bitten, going into excruciating detail about how the child will turn and kill them all.
The first thing he'll do is sink his teeth into his mom's face. Then, when she's dead, he'll probably pounce on your little girl. She'll turn fast, and then there'll be 3.
As a personal attack, he quietly confronts Lee, threatening to reveal his secret past if he causes his daughter any trouble. The downside to his impressive temper is his weak heart condition that can knock him down in the middle of an argument, or worse still when the party is in need of extra pair of hands. The ultimate failure of this character comes evident when fleeing the pharmacy, as Larry punches Lee and leaves him for dead while the rest of the group escapes. Get on his wrong side, make the wrong choices, which at this rate seems to be everything, and your fate is sealed. The ironic part is that down the line, you will be put in the position of standing between Larry's survival or death from his own self-inflicted weakness. His intentions may be good, but surviving a chaotic world is easier when you're not being a huge jerk the whole way.
This is Agent Nightingale, FBI!
Robert Nightingale, Alan Wake. There are some people who, once they get an idea in their heads, will pursue it to the ends of the earth, regardless of the consequences of their actions. Former FBI agent Robert Nightingale was once known as a righteous brother, along with his partner Agent Finn, a duo of viceless, incorruptible, by-the-book investigators. They seemed destined for greatness in the Bureau, until Finn began dreaming about a darkness that was growing closer. When he disappeared as an apparent result of this darkness, Nightingale became unhealthily obsessed and guilt-ridden over the mystery, sending him into a spiral until he began experiencing dreams involving the author Alan Wake. Sure that Wake had something to do with this whole affair, the unhinged Nightingale tracked Wake down to Bright Falls. By the time he makes his first appearance, Robert Nightingale is broken, boozed up, and trigger-happy. On many occasions where he encounters the author, Nightingale opens fire on him, endangering multiple civilians in the process, and causing tension between himself and local authorities who had no idea he had been fired from the FBI. Nightingale has a disregard for everything and everyone surrounding his narrow-minded pursuit of Alan Wake, and when he's not firing bullets at the man, he's instead taking pot shots, calling him by the names of other authors instead. He's so desperate to find reasoning to the death of his partner and rid himself of the guilt that it blinds Nightingale of the true threat right up until it's too late.
For real, what is it with you and going back to the lodge? You just want to hide out in your room and cry.
Emily, Until Dawn. If one was to look up the definition of the word pretentious, they would find a picture of Emily as the primary example. One of the louder personalities of the game, she is often the first to initiate a fight due to her headstrong nature and sharp tongue, and it takes something short of a miracle to get her to back down.
I'd like to maybe focus on how we're gonna get the f*** out of here, please.
While a resourceful and intelligent individual, she possesses a weaker side, reverting to somewhat of a panicked damsel in distress role when danger arises.
Thank you, idiot! Just get me out of here!
You're gonna be fine.
Stop talking! I can't take it!
Stop yelling at me and let me work this out!
Yeah, you just take all the time you need, not like I'm going anywhere!
Emily knows what she wants and will do whatever it takes to get it, even if it means screwing over her friends' relationships in the process, as highlighted through her interactions with Mike. She believes she is always right, and if confronted, she will constantly redirect the issue or simply insult her accuser in order to get her way. Considering her frustrating and condescending nature, it's no surprise that she has the most opportunities to die compared to any other character. It is even possible to have her shot depending on various choices, an important decision, as she is shown to not be above sacrificing others to save her own skin. Some may argue that she is just an independent person. Others will say she is simply an annoying, toxic bitch. The real question is, will you let her live until dawn?
Oh God, please! Oh my God, we're gonna die up here if you don't come get us! There's a maniac, don't you understand?
I'm a businessman with standards.
Ricardo Irving, Resident Evil 5. Also known as the Merchant of Death for selling bioweapons on the black market, Ricardo holds ties to many infamous criminal figures, including Albert Wesker and other former Umbrella higher-ups. Truly an irritating individual right down to his condescending attitude, fueled entirely by unsurpassed egotism and a pursuit of wealth. Very much an insufferable showboat or two in love with his own voice, his bungling escapes tend to leave a trail of destruction for Chris and Sheva to follow, proving he isn't quite as smart as he thinks he is. Every attempt to apprehend him always leads to him slipping away at the last minute while getting one last snide remark in. On the flip side, he too becomes annoyed with the duo, foiling every attempt of his to eliminate him.
You're making me look bad!
He becomes so desperate to flee that he injects himself with a dormant plaga sample and mutates into a hideous monster. Irving always was good at pushing his luck, and this final effort of his winds up sending him overboard.
Professor Pester, Viva Pinata, Trouble in Paradise. Formerly known as Lester, the devious Professor Pester is a leader of the Ruffians, a group of misfits who want nothing more than to destroy your pinata garden. Originally a pupil to Jardinero, the best gardener on Pinata Island. Lester would cut corners in his work, which would result in trouble further down the line. But when his son Stardos was born, Jardinero taught all of his skills to the boy instead, and had no further use for Lester's half-hearted attempts to maintain the garden. Enraged, Lester sent Jardinero in search of the mythical dragon egg, and corrupted his son with sour candy, turning him into Dastardos. To make matters worse, Jardinero became injured on the voyage, making him wheelchair-bound. Cursing his former ward, Jardinero forever rebranded him as Pester, which Lester also adopted. He continues to this day to torment Jardinero's garden, no matter who it is that maintains it. He'll creep onto the premises and seek out the most valuable piñata to destroy. You can either bribe him 500 chocolate coins to leave, or if you'd like a cheaper alternative, hang up decoys to delay him or tame certain piñatas. Alternatively, you could fence off the entrance to the garden, causing him to get confused and then run back home. Incessantly annoying and causing far more pain than he's worth, one can't help but see that Pester brought this life of villainy upon himself. Also, just what is he a professor of anyway?
Want some cheesy poos? Get your own.
Norton Mapes, F.E.A.R. First encountered by Point Man as he battles his way through ATC HQ, Mapes' initial reaction appears positive, willing to help you in exchange for something in return. However, this soon reveals itself to be a mere ruse, as once he gets what he wants, he cuts off your path and taunts you with a shake of his butt at the security cameras on the other side.
Mr. Mapes, do you copy? Mr. Mapes! There is that idiot.
After catching up with the gargantuan geek, he once again seeks out your assistance. Fool me once, fool me twice. Once more he betrays you and flips you the bird as he makes good his escape. From here, he makes no secret his intentions to impede Point Man's progress, unleashing an onslaught of security defenses to take him down. Voicemails only emphasize Norton's cocky and self-centered attitude, his arrogance regarding intelligence, and reveal some disturbing sexual harassment complaints made against him.
The last thing we need right now is a sexual harassment case drawing unwanted attention to this task force. It's supposed to be a secret after all, okay?
With every negative trait of him laid out on the table, it's almost satisfying watching Norton earn his just desserts when he is shot by Harlan Wade and left for dead. You could choose to believe he's alive as is highlighted by his miraculous survival during the offensive extraction point, but you can bet the majority of people sleep easier knowing that this particular installment of the series isn't canonical.
Your kind-hearted nature might be your downfall someday, but for the time being, it's making me rich.
Moneybags, Spyro Reignited Trilogy. There's always that one individual looking to profit from the troubles of victims in the midst of a terrible crisis, and Moneybags the Bear fits that description to a T.
I might look the other way if I was distracted, counting gems.
Greedy beyond belief, this guy never misses an opportunity to squeeze Spyro, and by extension the player, dry of every gem he can. From blocking off routes to your next objective and demanding a small fee to open them, to flat out conning you into handing over gems in exchange for door passwords that don't exist, and ripping you off in order to learn essential abilities you need to progress, Moneybags is guaranteed to rob you not only of your cash, but your patience as well.
I hope we meet again, when you have even more gems.
Even worse, he reaches full-blown villain status in Year of the Dragon, siding with the evil sorceress by locking up Spyro's friends and demanding ransom money to free them, in addition to planning to sell a dragon egg and make a huge profit. That last part finally proves a step too far to Spyro, who swiftly gives Moneybags a well-deserved karmic beatdown, taking back every single gem he steals from you throughout the game.
I refuse to bet my reputation on your hunch. I'm the lead archaeologist here.
And when were you last in the field with a TV crew behind you?
Got 30 years experience, 2 PhDs, 1 in East Asian history, so why don't you just stick to boats, Mr. Grimm?
James Whitman, Tomb Raider 2013. A pursuit for fame and fortune that spirals into a full-on obsession can drive some people to do whatever it takes to seize glory. Enter James Whitman. He's already cemented himself as a jerk before the story even gets rolling, as the tie-in comic reveals that he cheated on his wife, leading her to initiate divorce proceedings as they set off on the voyage to find Yamatai. Throughout the journey, all he focuses on is the potential monetary gain from the expedition, intent on stealing all the credit for its discovery from Laura, and openly condescends his fellow crew members at every opportunity, including making tasteless comments whenever an ill fate befalls them. This selfishness reaches its peak when he kidnaps fellow shipmate Sam and hands her over to the native islanders purely to learn more about their rituals. A letter found near the endgame reveals that he intended to do the same to the rest of the crew to save his own skin and take on the role of the perfect sole survivor along with all the publicity it would garner. Thankfully, his own arrogance and greed proved to be his undoing, as his own shortcomings as a learned treasure hunter turn into a fatal miscommunication with the island's native inhabitants.
Joe!
You better go rest up for the amateur contest tomorrow.
Eric Sparrow, Tony Hawk Underground. Keep your friends close and your enemies closer is not only a mantra for heroes to follow. Starting out as your only friend as you try to launch your skating career on the streets of New Jersey, Eric Sparrow turns out to be your biggest obstacle throughout the game. He's constantly getting into trouble, biting off more than he could chew, pissing off drug dealers. Afterwards, he attempts to sabotage your efforts to find sponsors and take part in tournaments, all the while proclaiming that he's the real OG skate master.
But anyway, I gotta go skate. I mean, this could be my big break. And who knows, maybe you could impress the pro or something and get in too.
You become brief rivals before reconciling, and Eric helps you record an incredibly dangerous stunt, jumping through the air and pulling off a McTwist as you soar over the blades of a police helicopter. As if risking your life wasn't insane enough, Eric then doctors the footage, claiming that he was the one who pulled off the stunt. Then he gets you arrested in Moscow for crashing a tank that he himself had stolen while drunk.
I tried to stop her, but she wouldn't listen.
Reducing your worth back to nothing and having to start your career all over again.
This kid doesn't even skate for us anymore. Get the check from the parents. The kid's off the team.
Meanwhile, Eric has not only claimed the title that is rightfully yours, but doesn't even skate for fun, only ever mounting a board when money is involved.
I need 5 in my hand or I won't skate. I don't care how many kids are waiting.
This all culminates in a face-off.
I got it all. My own company, 6 cars in my garage, a record deal in the works, and what do you got, huh? Food stamps?
And the prize for winning is the original unedited footage of the helicopter jump.
I'm still better than you! You got lucky, you little punk! Slam City Jam in Tampa with nothing but lucky, little bitch!
That ending is all well and good, but play it through a second time for a much more satisfyingly karmic conclusion.
One last trip around the neighborhood. Winner takes the tape.
You know, Clarence, that's not a bad handle. I am something of a guardian angel.
Clarence, Penumbra, Black Plague. As Philip explores the mysterious research facility, he soon begins to hear a voice in his head. It reveals itself as being part of a hive mind virus and chooses to identify as Clarence based on the memories of its host.
Well, thanks for the help. I'm having an existential nightmare and you can't even say a word.
Throughout Philip's adventure, Clarence will often ridicule his intelligence and refer to him as monkey. At times, he will manipulate Philip's vision to scare, confuse, or even delude him into murdering allies to achieve the Hive's ends or for his own sinister amusement.
How peculiar. I could have sworn we remembered there being a door here before. How queer.
Initially, Clarence seeks to destroy Philip so he may return to the hive mind, but gradually comes to appreciate individuality, so instead strives to possess a physical form of his own.
Hate to interrupt you while you're showing off your logical problem solving. Let me put it more simply. You see what I want you to see.
Clarence continues to encourage Philip into dangerous situations in order to kill him and claim his body. To him, Philip is simply an inferior being due to his insignificant intelligence, and revels in opportunities to ridicule and make fun of him. However, when chance reveals a way to flush him out of Philip's body, Clarence will plead and beg to ensure his survival. Once removed, Clarence attempts to exact revenge by possessing other nearby corpses of his own. Ultimately, Clarence is reabsorbed back into Collective, his individuality now lost to the Hive. At least he understood the meaning of karma before the end.
That is the most fun I've had in my entire life! Which isn't saying much.
Patches the Hyena, Dark Souls. Dark Souls is already choked full of an array of monsters mercilessly trying to kill you. But matters somehow get worse when even the helpful merchants want you dead. With traders like Patches the Hyena, the player's patience is likely to wear thin indeed. To start, he's flat out prejudiced, attacking and killing the player if they declare themselves to be a cleric in his presence. And that's before he starts trying to trick you into deadly traps for kicks and giggles, luring you onto bridges that he then flips over using trap mechanisms, kicking you off cliffs if you go too close to the edges when he's nearby, and generally doing everything he can to not live up to his nickname of Trusty. Even worse, he carries some unique items for trade that you can only obtain if you keep him alive throughout the game, meaning you're forced to put up with his actions if you want to get your hands on the good stuff later. When Lautrec says that Patches rubs him the wrong way, it won't be hard for the player to see why.
Oh, for heaven's sake, let's not mope about, eh? You're still alive? I said I'm sorry. Wait, I know. Here, take this. It proves something, doesn't it?
And it was just getting interesting, too.
Dog Eyes Lynn, Sleeping Dogs. You can be a well-meaning jerk. You can have good intentions despite being horrible at execution, but Dog Eyes Lynn neither means well or is particularly smart when it comes to getting what he wants. A red pole of the Sanani triad in charge of drug manufacturing, Lynn was never afraid to show off how important he believed he was. Growing up poor and abused, he always felt he was deserving of more. The problem being that he not only coveted what others had, but resented them for having it. Money, a loving family, fame. He began his rise through abuse and manipulation, eventually leading a prostitution ring where he would hook women on drugs to make them dependent on him, then sell their bodies for cash. It's his ruthless, no-nonsense work ethic that brought him his notoriety, and it's also what brings him crashing down.
You're coming with me!
Look, maybe we can cut a deal. Alright, stop all this shit, man. And I'll make sure that Big Smiley cuts you in on one of the side business. Maybe the f***ing whole damn thing. I mean, hey, we could be generous.
Causing the deaths of loved ones, vying for territory with people who are part of your own gang, and then pretending to take the high ground so you can betray your allies down the road makes a lot of enemies. It's no surprise that anyone who found out about his disappearance wasn't cut up about it. Unlike Dog Eyes, that is.
Oh, God! I'm sorry, please! Stop!
Donald Duck, Kingdom Hearts. Conflict has a tendency to bring out the worst in people, which may explain why the usually cheerful and likable Donald Duck behaves like such a massive jerk during the first Kingdom Hearts. It starts out with him manipulating the protagonist Sora into aiding him and Goofy with the promise of helping Sora find his missing friends. Despite admitting to Goofy, he has no idea if they ever will.
Who knows? But we need them to come with us to help us find the king.
His treatment of Sora only goes downhill from there. From demanding Sora cheer up despite losing his entire world to the darkness, to refusing to allow his friends to join the team once they do find them, even abandoning Sora to his fate on a hostile world when a choice between duty and friendship must be made.
We have to remember our mission. Sora, sorry.
Donald seems to be on a personal mission to make the audience hate him as much as possible. Not helping matters is his tendency to be floored by enemies rather easily, nor is his penchant for healing at the most inopportune moments, if at all, meaning he doesn't even make up for his attitude by being a useful team member. Thankfully, he eventually realizes he does genuinely care about Sora, and becomes much nicer both as a companion and an individual in subsequent entries in the franchise.
Wrong choice, Jackie boy.
Brag, Darkness 2. The mark of a great villain is the ability to hit the protagonist where it hurts. And beneath every villain is a loyal enforcer like Bragg to carry out those acts of personal torture. But Bragg takes a sadistic pleasure in his line of work, unlike most lapdogs, constantly taunting Jackie about his dead girlfriend Jenny at every opportunity, and threatening psychotic acts of violence against Aunt Sarah before eventually making good on his promises. Bragg single-handedly ruins Jackie's struggle to keep the darkness at bay, needlessly antagonizes him beyond what is necessary, kills many of his friends and family along the way, and even shows up to the funeral to desecrate the corpse. He doesn't even care when you finally make this mad dog heal, his only pleasure serving the whims of the Brotherhood. Bad guys, eat your heart out.
Thanks for the help.
Steve Haynes, amigo, but you probably knew that already.
Steve Haynes, Grand Theft Auto 5. Characters who believe themselves to be above everybody else, more important than they realistically are, unsurprisingly come across as the least tolerable people in all of fiction. Steve Haynes from Grand Theft Auto 5 is no exception. Setting aside the fact that he's already a corrupt FIB agent on the payroll of several wealthy businessmen, including fellow antagonist Devin Weston, he starts off very nearly strangling protagonist Michael for the appalling crime of not knowing who he is, and gets progressively worse from there as time goes by.
Hey, I do my dirty work every day, keeping the country safe from scum like you.
The game isn't even over by the time he's participated in torturing an innocent man for information, and nonchalantly leaves to play racquetball immediately after.
So what have you got for us? We need Trev to shake up your memory again? No.
All throughout, he uses his influence over the protagonists to force them to help him sabotage the IAA at every turn, purely for the sake of securing more funding for the FIB. Tries to sell Michael out to save his own skin after the authorities trace their criminal activities, and generally flaunts his control over them at every opportunity.
Arrest me for what? For multiple counts of every f***ing crime under the f***ing sun.
Oh, well, then let me rephrase. Why?
Why?
Because you don't want me to testify in court about our various business dealings, right?
The icing on the cake is that if the player picks option A as the ending, he gets away scot-free with everything he ever wanted, suffering no comeuppance for his actions whatsoever. Thankfully, a more satisfying and karmic option is available in Ending C, where Trevor permanently cures Steve's self-centered tendencies via hot lead injection to the brain.
Oh my god! Guy, what's his name? He shot him!
those cunning fiends. But I, Archangel Volcanus, will not fall prey to such a dirty trick.
Volcanus. Disgaea, Hour of Darkness. While the Netherworld is beset by demons, one would think that Celestia would be populated with righteous angels. In the case of Volcanus, however, the line between demon and angel is most certainly blurred. As an archangel, his position as Seraph's second-in-command has gone to his head, leading Volcanus to be openly narcissistic, believing himself above what he considers lesser angels.
If you wanted him assassinated, it would have made more sense to send me.
Beyond that, Volcanus sees his own kind as superior to demon scum who should be wiped from existence, all the while regarding humans as being too stupid to exist without angel guidance. Upon seeing the ditzy, love-obsessed Flan given the task to assassinate the Overlord, he refuses to accept not being chosen for this great task and goes out of his way to sabotage her efforts. This fails to impede her quest, only serving to reveal the wicked heart Volcanus possesses. He masterminds a human invasion into the Netherworld, manipulating humanity into believing the demons were planning to take over the mortal world unless they struck first. In a last desperate attempt to prove his worth, he commits the ultimate taboo and orchestrates the demonic armies to defeat the Netherworld's forces, playing all sides in this dangerous bid for power.
The time has come! I will eliminate you and deal with the Seraph next, and then I will be a god!
At the climax, it is revealed that the Seraph knew all the atrocities Volcanus had committed along this dangerous path, and that he must pay the ultimate price. As punishment, he is stripped of all his abilities and status, and transformed into a flower, so that for once, Volcanus may be of some good to the realms.
What's that saying? Don't pick a fight with a man with nothing left to lose.
Handsome Jack, Borderlands 2. When looking for the lowest rung on the ladder when it comes to morals, ethics, honor, or just basic politeness, look no further than Handsome Jack. Even his own name is a sign of just how inflated the ego is.
Welcome to Pandora, kiddos.
But that pales in comparison to his actions throughout the events of Borderlands 2.
Attention, people of Pandora. Handsome Jack here, offering $1 million to whoever brings me the head of the Vault Hunter who just arrived in Liarsburg.
For starters, everything you achieved in the original Borderlands, opening up the vault, killing the Destroyer, he's taking credit for. He has killed lots of people in order to control the Hyperion Corporation and thereby control much of Pandora itself.
Handsome Jack here, reminding you all not to worry your pretty little heads about those earthquakes. See, with every tremor, my drill gets closer to the vault, to freedom, order, and safety for us all. Except you asshats at Sanctuary.
Torture innocents to gain access to incredibly powerful technologies he can use to create weapons, and even imprisoned his own daughter as a power source for revenge over the accidental death of his wife.
Yeah, I know you think I'm a monster, you think I enslaved Angel, but you didn't see what she did to her mother. I had to restrain Angel's power. You get that? I had to.
Don't think this makes him any less fortunate, as he constantly lies about his past in order to come across as more sympathetic. Not to mention his constant goading and mocking of you over the comms channel.
Just bought a pony made of diamonds. Yeah, because I'm rich. So, you know, that's cool. Goodbye.
He will take any and every opportunity to insult and manipulate you into doing whatever he sees fit, and in every instance manages to find a way to inflict some form of pain against you.
We'll pay you to kill yourself. I've got a perfect spot all picked out for you. And you don't want to, that's fine. But if you want a huge reward, you jump off that cliff and become my bitch.
What makes Jack one of the worst jerks ever is his ability to always bring you down, always able to snatch victory out from under you at the 11th hour by stealing your hard-earned victory or killing the ones that you love the most. Jack's actions have consequences, but it all comes back to bite him in his handsome ass.
Okay. I guess you just killed yourself. Head back to the bounty board and I'll pay you. But, just one second. No matter what happens, I just want you to remember one thing. You're a sellout. You killed yourself because you paid you to. You're a bitch. Alright.
Pokey Minch, Earthbound. The short, chubby neighbor to Ness, Pokey is always playing pranks on the protagonist, constantly putting people down while simultaneously making appear superior to everyone else. But when things get dangerous, he is not above pleading to Ness for help, as well as using him as a human shield during combat. He starts out as a nothing but a mild annoyance, sweet-talking Ness's mom and badgering you to help find his little brother. Upon discovering the existence of Gygas, Pokey gradually grows into the role of secondary antagonist, becoming head of a cult that seeks to sacrifice Paula to the malevolent creature. He later steals a helicopter to prevent anyone from reaching Gygas, and is later revealed to have been impeding Ness from the beginning to strengthen Gygas in the interim. During the final battle with Gygas, Pokey will drop in and out of battle to aid his master and insult the party. But in typical Pokey fashion, he'll disappear when the going gets tough and even insult Gygas on occasion. In the end, his master defeated, he proves without a doubt that the only loyalty he has is to himself, and retreats through time. Good riddance. Let it be someone else's problem in a few years' time.
I'm Kokichi Oma, the ultimate supreme leader.
Kokichi Oma, Danganronpa V3, Killing Harmony. Don't let the childlike persona fool you. Kokichi Oma is one sick puppy. Trapped along with the rest of the students as part of the killing game, Kokichi is a serial liar and manipulator who is intent on permanently ending the sick affair permanently.
If you don't want to be blown to pieces, then you need to listen to what I'm about to tell you. I am the supreme leader of evil, so it's obvious my personality would be twisted.
While this may appear as quite a noble goal, his plans involve forcing every other participant to fall into traps and meet dead ends. There's crucial evidence and flashbacks, all so that he can remain ahead of the game and pull off the perfect unsolvable murder.
Oh, if you see that hint is important, then I guess it must be true. There's only one truth, but endless possibilities for lies, you know?
He openly insults everyone at any seeming opportunity, and shows barely any sympathy for the other students as they are picked off one by one, with the closest he ever gets is saying one girl dying was a shame because she wasn't, quote, boring.
If I can't win this game, then I'll make it boring for everyone. That's my revenge.
Deep down there is something of a soul in him, as Kokichi holds absolute disdain for anyone who enjoys the killing game, and sometimes lets his mask slip to show the true feelings he tries desperately to hide.
If you're planning to expose a liar, then you have to corner them psychologically.
While he may only be this sadistic and evil as a circumstance of being part of the game, Kokichi Oma is a huge, constant, nagging obstacle on the path to survival that he might as well be one.
Only then will they reveal their true self as a liar, hiding beneath a layer of deceit!
I'm sure you've heard from the principal, but cause any trouble and you'll be expelled. Understand? Good luck trying to enjoy your new school life.
Suguru Kamoshida, Persona 5. Shujin Academy's volleyball coach, Kamoshida, in his prime, was once a competitive Olympic athlete. On the surface, he seems a supportive and encouraging fellow, eager to broaden the horizons of any students who wish to learn. But it doesn't take long before a more sinister side begins to encroach. Those who chose to not get with the program are subjected to ridicule and disdain. But since Kamoshida holds much sway amongst the facility, he can get away with pretty much anything. His vindictiveness is such that he injures Ryuji's legs, forcing the player to quit and disband the running team. He also maintains a transactional relationship with Anne, in exchange for securing her friends' positions on the volleyball team. To him, the school is his kingdom, and he is the king who can do as he pleases to whomever he wishes. No one can stop him. Teachers and students who become aware of the situation will not act due to Komoshida's status as a famous athletic star. Students fear him as he often beats them when inclined, and can make or break lives on a whim. His disgusting acts lead to Anne's friend attempting to take her own life. But when confronted, he flexes his power and threatens the protagonist with expulsion. Once Komoshida's palace is cleared, it is discovered his greatest treasure was his Olympic medal, implying he cannot let go of his former glory. After a change of heart, he confesses to everything he has ever done, and is shamed from society, doomed to be a disgraceful, empty shell of a man.
Hey, it's your Uncle Paulie.
Paulie Franchetti, The Darkness. Revenge is no stranger to Don Paulie Franchetti, as he often utilizes it to justify the horrific deeds necessary to maintain his mob connections and money-making schemes. But it's just business to a man like him.
You f***ing maggot! Anyone hurts Paulie Franchetti, I hurt him twice as bad in return. 3 times as bad! Because I decide how this city works. You hear me? I hope you took a good look at the sky today, cause it's the last moment of peace you'll ever have in your very short and very miserable rest of your pointless f***ing existence.
So is taking orphans off the street and indoctrinating them into his own personal army, ruining countless lives to drugs and racketeering, not to mention the body count he leaves in his wake. These terrible crimes serve to give Paulie the arrogance to believe he is untouchable, backstabbing everyone he deems a liability with a self-satisfied smirk as he gloats at the poor souls he takes or leaves behind. Deciding to off his own personal hitman? That's just business. But killing his girlfriend in cold blood? Now it's personal.
The problem with you is you never learned how to listen. You always wanted to be me. It doesn't work that way, Jackie. You ain't gonna kill me. You know why? 'Cause you're soft.
The worst part about him? Behind all that bravado, Paulie Franchetti is nothing but a sniveling weasel who'll beg for his life once the tables are turned.
Anything you want, you just ask. I can get it for you. You want a cut? Just say the word. We're both men of the world, you and me. We know the score. Just let me go, okay?
It's amazing how a demonic entity like the Darkness pales in comparison to the ego of this simple mortal.
You piece of shit! I hope you rot in hell forever!
Let's go out and torment someone really helpless and unfortunate.
Gary Smith, Bully. As Jimmy enters his new schooling life, he's immediately confronted by bullies of all factions within the school. The first friend he makes is Gary Smith, who is kind enough to show him the ropes and helps him settle in.
Go easy or they put you on medication. They did to me. Boy, nearly sent me insane.
However, very early on it is discovered Gary houses an extremely self-absorbed god complex.
I was just telling Petey here about my idea to take over the school. I mean, my plan for us to take over the school.
What plan?
Don't worry, Jimmy. It's just a little something I came up with. It's sink or swim, my friend. And if you're good at swimming, you gotta let the losers drown.
Delighting in demonstrating his control and manipulation of people after betraying Jimmy to the bullies.
Thought we were friends.
Friends? You and me. I've taken dumps that had more brains than you, friend. No, I'm taking over this school, and you're just a liability. See you around, moron!
Throughout the rest of the game, Gary is the primary antagonist, ensuring Jimmy suffers on all sides simply because he can.
Things are never going to be the same again. Oh, I'm so excited! I should have stopped taking those pills ages ago.
He even rats out Jimmy to the principal in order to have him expelled, which elevates Gary to the role of head boy, giving him even greater sway over the student body.
A commendable pupil did feel the need to tell me you were responsible for this outrage.
Gary Smith!
You are leaving the academy to attend to your education elsewhere. Now get out!
His unstable personality and great paranoia lead him to believe everyone will stab him in the back unless he acts first. As the plot unfolds, Gary manages to puppet everyone from the prefects to the principal, forcing an all-out war within the school, while he stands unscathed as would-be emperor.
You're not very nice, Gary. And you're a loser, Petey. One of life's unfortunate.
But even this master manipulator can't talk his way out of a one-on-one with Jimmy, making for some sweet, sweet revenge.
I won! I tricked everyone! Me! I won!
You are sad, man.
I might be sad, but I run your world, moron! And don't you forget it! You did all my dirty work for me, Hopkins. You're like a puppet, only dumber!
Though it appears Gary's attitude throughout the whole game was caused by his unwillingness to medicate his ADD, after so much pain and chaos, it begs the question, should we hate him or pity him?
Why'd you do it, Gary?
Because I can! Because making little people like you and the morons who run this place eat out of the palm of my hand feels great!
But I never did anything to you!
You would've if I'd given you the chance! Face it, I'm smarter than you!
Oh, congratulations! You're smarter than me! You hate everyone and everyone hates you! Genius!
The head likes me! I tied him up, turned his dumb school into a battleground, got kids expelled unfairly, put several others into therapy, and he still likes me!
Did you enjoy the video? Why not click the bell icon and subscribe to see more content from us at Tats.Videos. And now let's see the creators of this video.